Wow, what a beautiful day. Go and enjoy the snow. I wanted to put a video together for you that would be useful on how to thrive on an expedition. So not how to survive, but how to thrive. How to get the most out of it. How to enjoy your expedition. And none of the tips I'm going to give you are going to involve buying equipment or learning particular skills. They are going to be about how to organise yourself and prepare yourself and have an adaptive mind frame to get the most out of your expedition. So there's lots of videos out there on equipment, there's lots of videos on techniques, but there's not much on how to suck the marrow out of the trip you're going on. So here's my advice and my observations, because I've got a lot of tips and a lot of observations because I've been on a lot of trips and I've done a lot of variety. So I've been on expeditions that have been to the bottom of caves, I've been on canoe expeditions, but I've also been on high altitude treks, I've been on scuba diving trips, I've been to South American jungles, South Asian jungles. So the variety of places I've been to, and there's more than what I've just mentioned there, and the types of expeditions I've done have been very varied. So what I wanted to do is show you some kind of all-encompassing mind frames or mindsets to go on these trips and to get the most out of it. So you won't get a top tips for altitude or top tips for jungle, but what you will get is just a way of thinking about things so that you can thrive on an expedition and get the most out of your trip, because I'm presuming you're going and you want to enjoy yourself. So here are some ideas and some tips for you. Let's start off with something that's pretty simple and pretty elementary. Having said that, it's still the number one thing I see people making mistakes on when they go on expedition. Hydration. You got to drink. You got to drink loads. Particularly if you're going on trips to altitude or trips to cold places where the air is dry. In fact, any trip really, you should be drinking more than you do in your average kind of suburban life. Theoretically, when we're based at home doing kind of domestic jobs, non-physical activity, we should be drinking 2.5 litres a day. That's probably about 6 pints of water. But when you're active and you're going into these environments that are far, far more rigorous, and you're working harder, you're breathing more and you're getting hotter, you must drink more water, drink more fluid. It doesn't necessarily need to be pure water, but you do need to chuck the fluids down your neck. So you should be aiming at a minimum of getting 4 to 5 litres down your neck every day. And that seems almost unfeasible, but I guarantee it's the one thing I see people making a mistake on when they're going on expedition. They don't drink enough. Altitude, jungles, deserts, people don't drink enough. And that's really important, because you've only got to have a drop in your personal body fluid for about 5% to 10%, and your performance drops by 30 to 40%. So it pays off to drink more. Drink. Somebody offers you a drink, you say yes. You walk into a tea house in the Himalaya and you say, I'll have a drink please. All the time. You should be having access to water. So top tip, drink more. Tip number 2, if you're going to drink more, you're going to need to put on more salts and more sugars. If you're flushing clear water or clear liquids through your body, they're going to be removing the salts and the sugars from your body. Basically what you're going to happen is you're going to become depleted from the necessary salts and sugars to help you perform properly. The technical term is called hyponatremia. I've seen it done quite a lot. I've seen people drink, flush salts and fluids from their body, and before you know it, they're getting cramps and headaches, and they're getting performance changes, all to do with the fact that the electrolytes, the salts and sugars, are out of kilter. So some simple things you can do is to make sure you put extra salts and sugars on your food, but also every now and again, every day or so, have a rehydration sachet. That's something like a Diarylyte, an electrolytic tablet or sachet. Just throw it down your neck every couple of days, and that'll help replenish. You don't need one every day, but that'll help replenish the salts and sugars for you. So get salts and sugars down your neck if you're drinking lots of water, which you should be. So everything so far has been about drinking and sugars, so I'm just going to carry that on the concept of food as well. Now when you're at home, you are probably only needing about 2,000 to 2,500 calories, depending on your size and your activity level, each day. But But when you're on expedition, you're usually working physically for many hours in a day. You might be trekking, climbing, skiing, scuba diving. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but you are burning fuel every day. And you need to have a balanced and calorifically dense diet. If you don't, before you know it, you're going to start to fatigue big time. The big mistake I see a lot of people do, and I admit I used to make this mistake, was they would go away for a night or two and get away with having minimum type of food. So they would take dehydrated noodles and a few snack bars to get through a 24-hour period. And that's fine if it's a 24-hour period. But if you don't take on enough calories over multiple days, that calorific deficit has a cumulative effect. And you end up stripping body fat off, which some people think is a good idea. But it isn't if you're on an expedition. You need to have those energy reserves in your body so you can dig deep. If the weather gets crap, you need to keep warm. So you've got to throw the calories down your neck. And you need to have a varied diet. It can't just be sugary snacks. It needs to be balanced. And I'm not going to go into what you need to do to balance that diet, but I'm labouring the point here that when you're on expedition, you are probably burning multiple thousand calories during a day. So average person at home, 2,500 calories. Highly active person, you're talking 3,500, 4,500 calories a day, depending on what they're doing. I once heard of a polar expedition that was measuring their calorific burning a day, and they were doing 8,500 calories a day, which is just obscene. And I went on a caving trip once where we had a professional nutritionist with us, and she kind of looked at the food that we were eating and the fact that we were still ravenous, and she calculated that we were burning around 6,000 calories a day. So you get the point. When you're on expedition, eat. And on that note, try new foods. That's where you're going away. You know, if you're going to exotic parts of the world, why are you taking just your food with you? Unless you've got a medical condition, maybe it's a good idea to try the local cultural food and get used to that. Maybe try the dishes of the local village. So eat. That's top tip number whatever. Another major thing you need to do when you get into a particularly foreign country or a different geographical location is acclimatise. If you think for 1 second that you're going to jump straight off the plane and go straight into this huge physical labour of doing an expedition without taking some time to let your body and your mind adjust, you're probably setting yourself up for a bit of a sorry start. You need to acclimatise. So you need to acclimatise for things like altitude, you need to acclimatise for things like humidity or temperature, and you also need to acclimatise for the cultural impact that you're going to get. I've seen groups have little bits of meltdown because they've arrived in far-flung parts of the world and seen things they didn't expect to see. So that has had a bit of an emotional impact on them as well. So the top tip is, when you're going to these places, you need to physically, psychologically, culturally acclimatise yourself to all the things that are going to be new and different to you. So take the opportunity to acclimatise. Right, you're going to see tons and tons and tons of videos out there about how to keep yourself safe in survival conditions. Ooh, just going to open the gate. So I tell you what, been a lot of places, done a lot of things, and I can count the amount of times on one hand that I've actually had to pull out some survival technique. You know, the glamorous scenario of, avalanche or overnighting somewhere, or you're building a shelter. It's so damn rare that it's almost like a skill that's not that important. It's a really bad thing to have happened to use that skill. But what I do see going on expedition is people getting ill, getting sickness, getting diarrhea, getting rashes, getting fungal infections. Every single foreign trip I've ever been on, every single one, somebody gets diarrhea, sickness, or a rash or a fungal infection. Every single one of them. And that is down to hygiene, personal hygiene. Now, I'm not criticising anybody because we are in a different part of the world where we're exposing our immune system to different bugs and viruses, but we do need to keep ourselves actively clean. We must wash our hands. We must scrub underneath our fingernails. We must wash our underarms, our crotch, and we must brush our teeth. We must try to keep ourselves clean, because if you don't, the bacteria will have a cumulative effect. And before you know it, you'll be the one sitting, squatting over some pan in the middle of a desert somewhere, or thrown up at the side of a bus because you've got travel sickness due to some food you've eaten. So you've got to keep yourself clean, and that's more than just hand sanitizer. That's keep your nails clean, scrub everything, keep your clothes clean when you can. If you're ever passing places where you can wash your clothes, wash them, get everything clean. Hygiene is the number one thing on expeditions for illness. Forget all your big glamorous stuff. Hygiene is the one thing that will impact your expedition the most. Pretty simple one now. Be on time. Be on time. Wear a watch. Don't rely on your phone, because you don't really want to get your phone out in a lot of the places that you're going to. Wear a watch and be on time. Being on time means that you can organise efficiently with the rest of the group, that you're going to meet in certain locations, and that you're also going to pick up your transportation links at the right time. If you're 10 minutes late for your flight, you've missed your flight. So I can't emphasise that enough. Be on time. Also, if you're going to travel in a group of people, be on time out of a sense of courtesy to them. If there's 10 people and one person's continuously late, that means another 9 people having their time wasted and detracting from their experience. So be on time. Get a cheap waterproof watch. It doesn't need to be expensive. You do not need these big altitude GPS swinging and dancing satellite watches. You don't need them unless you're a highly technical expert. If you're just a layperson going on a trip, just a simple watch that's waterproof that costs about 15-20 quid, that'll be fine. Be on time. It helps you to get yourself organised. Which brings me to my next point. Be organised. What I mean by that is, have a simple plan for the day and what you're going to do, where you're going to go, and the kind of general outline of what is going to be involved in that. Whoop, just open that gate again. So, be on time and be organised. Be organised with your personal administration. Know where your kit is. Make sure your kit is organised in a particular neat and tidy way, so that it is what the military refer to as equipment for action. You do not want to be rifling through the bottom of your rucksack in a rainstorm trying to find your waterproof. It needs to be at the top, super quick, easy accessible. You don't want to be thinking, oh, I can't be bothered to get my water bottle out because it's just a couple of layers down in my rucksack. I'll walk and not drink. It's being organised will allow you to access your equipment and keep your personal administration high. So get a structure, get an organisational plan, and then you can implement it. And just by being organised will pay off big time, and you'll have a much nicer time on your trip because you'll know where your kit is and know how to deal with things. Be organised. Right, try new things. That sounds a bit odd, but I see so many people going on expedition and getting kind of freaked out that there's all the new stuff out there. New food, new drink, new ways of doing things, new different types of organisation and culture that you'll find in different parts of the world. Well, isn't that the whole reason to go on a trip? To try these new things, to experience these new things? Do it with an open heart. Do it with a sense of curiosity. Go and find out about stuff. If you don't know what things are, ask. The locals, 99 times out of 100, are really pleased that you are paying interest to what they're doing, and so they're quite happy to show you things and give you tastes of things. It's brilliant. Make yourself a little task of, like, at least every couple of days, try something new so that you can go back and go, oh, I remember what that tastes like, or you might find something you really like. Yeah, so try new stuff. That's the whole thing about an expedition. Try new skills, doing things you've never done before, new foods, new places, meet new people, try stuff. Because if you want everything to be the same, what's the point in going? Stick it out, jump in, have an adventure, try stuff. Right, this is quite an important one, and it's often overlooked. So, you need to forgive people, okay? And what I mean by that is, you've got to remember, if you're part of a group going on an expedition for multiple days at a time, people are going to annoy you. They're going to have things that are habits that just drive you mad. Or they may be tired or stressed or anxious and maybe doing things in a way that, doesn't really ring well with you. Don't hold a grudge, particularly if people have been accidentally rude to you or a bit blunt or grumpy in the morning. I'm terrible in the morning. So if somebody rubs you up the wrong way and it's not intentional, just forgive them. play the game of forgiving people. Just let it go, because if you hold on to it, it's going to carry on and cause a problem within the expedition itself. So forgive people. However, there's a catch to that. If somebody's being repetitively and deliberately antagonistic towards you, you can't let that carry on. You must do something about it, because it's then going to detract from your expedition, and then you become miserable, and that impacts on everybody else. So there's a balance. Forgive people, but also deal with people who are being intentionally rude, lazy, late, or whatever, that's having an impact on other people. Don't let deliberacy and ignorance slide, but let stress, anxiety, and emotions go, because that's the thing that we all need. We need a bit of forgiveness. Which then the next thing is, say sorry, okay? If you cock up, if you make a mistake, if you bump into somebody, if you're a bit grumpy and you're accidentally rude to someone, say sorry. You have no idea how the impact that'll have on someone else's mental health if you can just acknowledge that you weren't operating at your best, and you can take ownership for that. So if you cock up, just say sorry. I've been on expeditions and I've been the leader, and I've been having a bad day because I'm a human being, and I've said things that were probably not the best way of saying it. Probably needed to be said, but not in the most undiplomatic way I've said it. So I have, at the end of the day, taken ownership to that and said sorry. So that goes for all of us. We need to apologise for our actions if we didn't mean to be rude, okay? It'll have such a big effect on the group. Nothing is so lovely as getting a sorry off someone. Right, counterintuitive, but also probably worth mentioning, you cannot operate at 100% all the time. You can't do it. You can't have 100% output. So we need to have rest. Now that rest opportunity is where you can restore your mental and physical batteries. You can get some good sleep, you can rehydrate, you can get some food, you can just read a damn good book, and sometimes you might need to socially isolate yourself just so you can have a social rest. We all need it. So do make sure that you take the opportunity to rest. And going back to the other part about saying sorry and forgive, that could be one of the factors that's possibly had a problem with you and other people, is that not fed, watered, or rested properly. So do take the opportunity when available to rest. In fact, actually plan it into big expeditions. I've worked out now that on some of the big expeditions I do, that every 3-4 days we take a full rest day. That's to sort the kit out, sort ourselves out. Because when you're burning calories like we're doing, we need to have a rest, and it just helps us reset everything. Then you can go off in a better state of mind and a better physical order. So rest is really important on expeditions. This one is really thinking about the future. Take notes, keep a diary, take photographs, record videos, because when you're older, you won't remember all the little cute details that are right in front of you. But if you do keep a few notes and take those photographs, even just 6 months later, or 6 years later, or 60 years later, you might be able to look at those photographs and memories that you've captured in a little book and relive the whole experience again. Your memory will fade over time. The good thing is, hopefully it'll fade into a good generalised memory. But the point is, capture the moment and record it in some way so you can relive it in the future, because that's part of the fun, creating memories that you can pass on to your grandchildren. Right, this is a big one, but it's simple. Keep out of the sun. I see this an awful lot, particularly with British people, because we don't get much sun. So therefore, when it comes out, what we want to do is strip off our pants and our bikinis and sunbathe. Yeah, you're not on holiday in the south of Spain or, the south coast of France. We're not trying to grab a tan. Particularly when you're in high altitude places or deserts, or even near the sea, if you are exposing yourself to the sun, you're basically giving yourself a jolly good dose of radiation. You're technically burning yourself. And I have seen so many people of all ages ignore the advice of keep out the sun, wear a sun hat, wear sunscreen. They'll say, I'll be all right, I don't burn. And before you know it, they're cooked, they're burnt, they're damaged, and they're also ill, which means they're now a liability to the rest of the group. Burnt faces, burnt eyes, burnt shoulders, all this kind of stuff happens. So keep out the damn sun, okay? It's not good. It's a nuclear fireball in the sky that's radiating everything. So protection. Hats, sunglasses, face covering if you're at altitude, and loads of sun cream. Cool. You're not on holiday in Torremolinos or Benidorm. Cover up. Keep out the sun. So earlier on I said have a plan. Now here's the other end of the spectrum. Not everything can be planned. One of the wonderful things about being on an expedition is the serendipitous experiences that happen. You don't know what's going to be around the corner. You might find a fantastic restaurant, you might find a little village, you might find a fantastic view. Who knows? The whole idea about being on expedition is to have these serendipitous experiences. I've met quite a lot of people that have been anxious because they're not, I got covered in snow. I've met a lot of people that have been really, really anxious about the fact that we're not on itinerary. And we might be an hour out, a couple of hours out. We're not actually to the letter of where we are and what we're doing. Well, you know, where's the fun in that? We do need to have a plan, but we also need to have those experiences that are unplannable on the journey. And it's those unplannable experiences that can often be the most magical ones. So, have serendipitous experiences. They're brilliant. Cool, more of a courtesy thing now, and also a little bit of safety involved. Observe local culture, okay? Big thing I see with a lot of Europeans and North Americans, me being included, is they go over to different parts of the world and kind of expect the other part of the world to tolerate us and accept us in the way we do things. Whereas that's kind of inverse. We should be listening to and taking part in their cultural activities. One of the big problems is how you dress. It could be something as simple as having the shoulders uncovered, or having shorts on, or wearing a particular type of swimming costume in the wrong location. So what you do at home is absolutely fine. What you do in your own hotel room is absolutely fine. But when you're out and about on the street, particularly in more rural areas, pay attention to the local culture. Think about how you're presenting yourself. You will be much more regarded if you can take part in cultural interactions sensitively, and they'll be more respectful to you and more helpful to you. And it's also part of the experience. We don't want to go overseas these trips and just be ourselves. We want to have new experiences. So pay attention to the local culture. This is a tricky one, and I have to spend a lot of time getting this through to people who have invested so much of their emotional energy and preparation time into going on a big trip. You have to understand that when you're going on a big trip, a scuba diving trip, bottom of a cave trip, a summit a big mountain trip, that you can have all the plans that you like, but if Mother Nature doesn't want you to go there because of whatever reason, prevailing weather, you're not going to go. So you have to take into consideration that your plans might not fit what is possible. Now, some of the trickiest decisions I've ever made have been on when I've had to turn expeditions round because the environment just was not safe. You could have been avalanche prone, or it could be a flooding cave. And I've had to have almost head-to-head conversations with people on the expedition saying, but I want to do this trip. It's like, well, you're paying me to keep you safe. And I'm telling you, if you proceed now, it becomes unsafe. So it's really important to have realistic understanding of what is possible on an expedition. I've gone on trips for canoe trips and thought we're going to have 6 days of amazing paddling. And we've done 2 days and then been parked by the side of a loch, pinned down in weather for 4 of those days, just because the weather report has been incorrect. That's what happens when you're getting into wild environments. What you hope is going to happen isn't necessarily what is going to happen, because weather reports they're just forecasts. They're not absolute guarantees. So please take that into consideration if you're a member of a group, that the leader is going to do their absolute best to give you the best time possible, but they may have to make a tough call one day, which means that you might not get to the summit, or you might not get to the end of the trip and achieve all the planned tasks. But really what we are about though is having a great time and coming back safe, and that's down to our outlook. So take all the other stuff on board and maybe think about the serendipitous experiences that can happen because of it.